Over a year ago, I put out some instructional CQB videos. Since then, the amount of my knowledge has increased, and I plan on making updated videos to share what I have learned. But before we get into the finer details, there's something we need to talk about. In the current CQB space, there are two camps. On the one side, you have the traditional approach, and on the other, you have innovation. When I say traditional, I am referring to what you are most likely taught if you were in the military. Your points of domination style of room clearing. This kind of room clearing is widely utilized due to its ease of use and how cheap it is to teach. But in my opinion, points of domination opens you up to more risk with very little benefit, if any, when contrasted with newer methods of CQB. I'm not going to go too in depth on points of domination, but the generic way it's done is you have 4 people run into a room without knowing what is inside. The first man will either go left or right, and the second man will go opposite of the first man. Once inside, they will look down the wall they entered to their hard corners, and move along the walls as they sweep their guns across the room to each other's position, but stopping short as to not point their guns at each other. This is inherently dangerous for multiple reasons. The biggest reason being you have to wait for the third man to enter into the room before the center of the room can be adequately addressed. On average, this takes over 3 seconds. And if the enemy is ready for you to run into the room, I'm sorry, but somebody's gonna get shot. Like, if you think about it, if an enemy ran into the room you're standing in and you have 3 whole seconds to shoot at them, how many times do you think you would shoot your gun off? And at that distance, being like 5 to 10 feet, how many would you miss, right? I know there's theory and logic as to why it is done that way, but no amount of theory changes that reality. Now, the newer way of conducting CQB has many different names: combat clearance, threshold assessment, limited penetration, or any other name you want to call it. But it is essentially prying off the doorway from the outside with the goal of clearing 90% of the room before entering it. And once you do decide to commit to the room, you enter in as shallow as possible to not overexpose yourself to new angles before you're finished processing the information that is in front of you. Doing it this way is inherently safer and reduces the required manpower to tackle any given room, as on average you're probably just going to need 2 people to clear a room. So, if you were to wipe your mind of any preconceived notions of what you think that CQB is supposed to be, would you rather run into a room and then assess it, or assess the room and then enter into it? It's almost like I have this hole, right? Would you rather jump into the hole and then see how deep it is, or look into the hole, assess how deep it is, and then decide if you're going to jump into it? The people who swear by points of domination will argue that walls don't stop bullets. And that's true, but they block sight, making incoming shots less effective. They will also say while you're moving slow in the threshold, someone is just going to shoot you. But they commit a fallacy when they present this argument, as they are supposing the enemy is fully aware and ready for you to pie around that threshold. But then they want to pretend that in the same situation, running into the room would produce a better outcome, despite the inherent weakness that we just talked about. Like, I'm sorry, but if my full attention on the enemy while I'm pieing doesn't win me the fight, running into the room to clear the hard corner first is not going to save me. And I think that concept is ridiculous. Furthermore, if we lose the fight while pieing, we just have to drag one person to safety. As in points of domination, if the first person goes down on the initial entry, we have to pray that the next 3 people who are running in after him don't trip over him and get hit as well. So this video was just a quick prepper for the series I will be coming out with soon, as to clear any confusion as to why I do CQB the way I do it. Because I know already there will be people in the comments who say that I'm doing it wrong. Not knowing that I'm applying a different style of CQB, not out of ignorance, but as a choice, as I have weighed them both, and I find points of domination to be entirely lacking. If you need more convincing that this is actually a real thing, this video was put out a year ago of the Royal Marines being taught this type of CQB. And if we go further back, you have members of SEAL Team 6 showing off this kind of clearing as well, in these videos. I personally don't like appealing to authority, but the people who will argue that points of domination is inherently better often need that kind of argumentation and proof to convince them that I'm not crazy. So if you're interested in learning the tactics that I will be going over, hit a like on the video and subscribe for the videos coming down the pipe. I aim to get as much knowledge as I can into those videos, so they should be worth your time. Thank you for clicking on the video, and I hope you have a good one.